Hey, what's going on guys? Bflattened here with a brand new video today. Today we're going to be covering Minigun Moze, which is a brand new Moze build that's going to be working off of the new class mod, the Heat Exchanger. So getting into the skill trees for Minigun Moze, starting off with the green tree, we start off with Daka Bear. It is going to be giving us Iron Bear damage by 50%. You can jump into the Daka Bear, but basically this is just going to be here for the 50% damage. Cloud of Lead, occasionally Moze and Iron Bear shots will be doing bonus fire damage and will not consume ammo. We want this for proccing the fire damage on our minigun. That way we can light enemies on fire. And you'll see why that's important in just a second. Increases Moze and Iron Bear's fire damage, so whenever we're doing fire damage itself, it's going to be increasing it by 30%. And redistribution, every time a critical hit is done, we regen ammo and HP. Scorching RPMs, this is going to be here for the Iron Bear hardpoint damage for 30%. Really good, and we get 1 point passed over from Heat Exchanger. And then Specialist Bear for another 60% damage whenever we're using two of the same weapons. Two miniguns, 60% more damage on both. And then Exploding Bullets is going to be the augment of choice. However, you can also use General Winter for cryo rounds, depending on what you're going up against, like Wotan or Scourge, for example. But Exploding Bullets is going to be reducing our minigun fire rate, so we're not going to be proccing our status effect skills as often, and it's also going to be increasing our damage by 232%. We're going to be revisiting this in just a little sec. I'm in Red Tree, we're using Security Bear and Armored Infantry. Security Bear is here for the bubble, and also that we get reduction by an additional 50%. We get Iron Bear max HP added as shields, and the damage reduction on this is actually incredible. It's going to be combining with a skill in the Purple Tree, and we're going to be getting there in just a second. And then Armored Infantry, while Moze's shields are active, we get damage reduction and also increased gun damage. This is whenever we're like desperate for damage and we're leaving Iron Bear. However, you can pass over these 4 points into another skill on the Purple Tree if you don't want to use Armored Infantry. Totally fine. Fire in the Skag's Den, this is going to be a very important skill. Fire damage whenever we're doing splash damage. Deadlines are Iron Bear weapons. Whenever we fire them, we'll drain less fuel. This is going to keep us alive and having our Iron Bear out more often. I put 1 point into Torque Cross Promotion just to get that extra 6% splash and having the potential for a smaller chance for a double splash radius. Stainless Steel Bear, super duper important, very needed. We get more max fuel, we get armor, we get damage. This is just stellar for all kinds of Iron Bear related builds. And then Auto Bear, it'll last for 15 seconds after we leave. That way we can sit in Daka Bear. Vampire, just for a little bit of healing. It's not necessary, but you can have it. And then the Purple Tree is going to be our main source of our Iron Bear here. 3 points into Big Surplus. While Moze's action skill is cooling down, we do bonus fire damage. This is a super good skill. It is extremely broken, and whenever we lose our Iron Bear, either accidentally or we run out of fuel, we do a super amount of bonus fire damage. Really big guns, we get 20% more Iron Bear damage. Biofuel, whenever we or Iron Bear ignite an enemy, we regen HP for a short time. This is actually a really good skill, and you only need 3 points into it for it to be effective. Say we face check a barrel and we take some damage from it. All we have to do is just light an enemy on fire, and we're going to be regenning our HP very quickly. Double time, while Moze's action skill is active, she and Iron Bear gain increased movement speed. Fired Up is really good too. Whenever Moze or Iron Bear applies a status effect, we gain increased fire rate for a short time, and it stacks. This is going to be the counter to the green tree skill that we talked about earlier, Exploding Bullets for minigun fire rate. And then Nitrogen Engines, this skill. We gain increased fuel and action skill cooldown rate, 4 out of 5, so that we can get more fuel and also action skill cooldown rate whenever we're out of Iron Bear. One of the main skills of the build is going to be Never Gonna Give You Up. I wish this was a Rickroll, but it's actually a very good skill. Whenever Moze or Iron Bear applies a status effect to an enemy, Iron Bear gains fuel. This skill has diminishing returns. So on our first time we proc it, up to 25%. And then there's diminishing returns every single time that this re-procs. And there's a few different things that we have that will proc this, which is also going to be joining with the capstone. And finally, one of the other main skills besides the capstone is feature creep that we also get 3 points from our class mod into. Feature creep gives us damage and also damage resistance. Normally we only have 1 point into this, but with the new class mod, it can roll up to a +4 into feature creep. Iron Bear damage is a 72% extra damage, and we also get 180% resistance. Now, if somebody out there has done more an in-depth study on resistance versus reduction, feel free to comment now, because I haven't done my studies on it. However, resistance is always going to be better than reduction. I don't remember the exact formula as to why, but resistance is always going to be better than reduction. My thought on it is that resistance is V2, which is multiplicative, which means that we get more out of it, rather than reduction, which I believe is a mixture of two. And that means that resistance is always going to be trumping out reduction. This makes it so that we have over 3 million Iron Bear armor. We could face check Mayhem 10 barrels, I believe up to 3 times before we're actually in danger. And we can also take our own exploding bullets to face check them, and we can make 2 shots to blow up our own Iron Bear. That way, if we make one mistake, we can at least recover from it. And then running on fumes. Whenever Moze or Iron Bear ignites an enemy, Iron Bear does not consume fuel for a short time. So whenever we proc this skill, we get fuel back. Whenever we proc that skill, because we light an enemy on fire, both of them will trigger at the same time, so our next 6 seconds of fire will not consume fuel. It's a good way to keep Iron Bear alive, and if you need any further proof of it, I can beat the entire maliwan takedown on Mayhem 10 with only 1 action skill, because these two are proccing so often with each other. It can usually last about upwards of 5 to 6 minutes before it expires and you need to do another action skill. So our entire loadout here is going to be interacting with all these skills. First off, the Unforgiven with minigun damage. The critical hit damage is going to pass over, not only into Iron Bear, but into Doc Bear as well. It has a minigun, so of course we get increased damage. Consecutive hits free radical. This thing is just a really, really good weapon to have whenever we're using our cooldown, so that we can get it back faster. The Dark Army with minigun. This is a little bit of a last-minute addition. The Dark Army is fire, and it's also a minigun anoint. Whenever we are out of Iron Bear, this is going to be doing extreme damage with Big Surplus and Never Gonna Give You Up. Or, sorry, Big Surplus and Fire in the Skag's Den. That way we can have both of those together to do a lot of damage with fire. And it's also going to be interacting with Stoke the Embers and Cloud of Lead. That way we can get kills even though we're not in Iron Bear. It's another way for it to proc Fire in the Skag's Den when we are in Iron Bear and it's using the drones. Because the Dark Army, if we have it in our hand and we enter Iron Bear with it, the 3 drones will still follow us around and it'll be able to light enemies on fire because of Fire in the Skag's Den. We have the Multivitamin Plus Ultra. After exiting Iron Bear, we get a 30% cooldown by getting kills. And then it's also going to be passing over the 2 HP slots. So our Iron Bear is going to get another 125% bonus HP. This will push us over 3 million armor. We're using an It's Pissed grenade because while Iron Bear is active, taking damage has a 20% chance to spawn a grenade. If we're in Iron Bear and we're taking damage, the It's Pissed can throw out every so often. And if it's hitting an enemy, it causes splash damage. Splash damage causes fire damage because of Fire in the Skag's Den. Fire damage then lights an enemy on fire, meaning we get fuel back, meaning we get 6 free seconds of free fire. The heat exchanger we were talking about a little bit earlier. Iron Bear and Iron Crab gain up to 80% more minigun damage based on their weapon's heat level. Okay, so the more that we're firing our miniguns, the more that the heat exchanger is going to be doing more damage. So since that we have running on fumes going to be proccing every so often, and very, very often, I should say, it doesn't consume fuel whenever we hold down the triggers. However, it's still going to heat up our weapons. So we have 6 free seconds of free fire to heat our weapons up to 80% damage, but we're not consuming fuel for it. It's totally free. The heat exchanger can also roll in 3 really good skills: feature creep, scorching RPMs, and really big guns. Mine only rolled in 4 skill points because I believe it's bugged at the moment to sometimes only roll in 4. However, this one was near perfect enough, so I decided to take this one. Weapon critical and action skill damage are going to be passing over, and those are super good skills and passives to have. The fire resistance isn't going to do anything for you. And finally, the last little unique interaction is Unleash the Dragon. Okay, so Unleash the Dragon, it has a melee ignite chance of 100%. So if we're doing melee damage, we are always going to light that enemy on fire. If you're wondering the big question, yes, it does work in Iron Bear. So if we're entering Iron Bear and we stomp with Iron Bear, Unleash the Dragon will proc, which means that we light an enemy on fire guaranteed every single time that we stomp. And all that means that it's going to proc Never Gonna Give You Up. It's then also going to proc Running on Fumes every single time we stomp. Now this also works for multiple enemies that we light on fire, and it's also going to be happening every single time we hit a different enemy. So if we stomp in a group of 3 enemies, it procs 3 times. If we proc in a group of 1 enemy, it procs 1 time. The other cool little thing is that if you're in an area with a barrel, it also will work off of a barrel. So it does specifically say enemy, however a barrel has an HP value, so if you're stomping and lighting a barrel on fire, it'll also give you fuel and also proc Running on Fumes. This has been tested, and it does actually work for some strange reason. It's probably just because the barrels have HP values before they explode. So now that we have all that together, let's put the build in action. So we have our 3 drones with us here, and we're going to enter Iron Bear, and our 3 drones will remain with us. And now let's just go ahead and completely turn enemies into red mist. We can speed up our fires here, and look at that, we are still at full fuel. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of lost fuel here, we're gonna proc Unleash the Dragon with a stomp. And look at that, we are all the way back up to full fuel just by stomping. The purpose of this build is sustainment. You want to stay in Iron Bear for as long as possible. And the reason why... Actually, we have a barrel right here. We can actually prove that theory earlier. So we're gonna kill off some fuel here. Okay, now that we have a little bit lower fuel, watch the barrel. We're gonna melee it. And look at that. We hit the barrel and we gain fuel off of it. There's your proof that by lighting a barrel on fire, you can actually proc Never Gonna Give You Up and also Running on Fumes. The purpose of the build is sustainment. You want to stay in Iron Bear as long as possible. Never Gonna Give You Up and Running on Fumes is going to do that for you. Every single time that the build is doing something, or something is doing something to you, you're going to be proccing Never Gonna Give You Up or Running on Fumes. You get shot. Its piss spawns, does splash damage. There you go. That's Running on Fumes and also Never Gonna Give You Up. You're shooting an enemy with your miniguns. That's fire damage. You light an enemy on fire. There you go. You stomp. That's going to be lighting an enemy on fire guaranteed. Every single time something happens, Never Gonna Give You Up and Running on Fumes is going to be proccing. It happens so often that your fuel gain and efficiency is going to be absolutely incredible. You do want to be careful though, because there is diminishing returns. If it procs too often, you're going to be running into trouble and it's going to run out of bear very soon. But you want to make sure that you pick your stomps and also pick your ways that you light enemies on fire efficiently. And from here, because we're doing so much damage, we're basically going to be one-shotting those mobs. Every single shot will do approximately 9 to 25, 30 mil. And the more that you're going to be shooting it, the more that heat exchanger is going to be doing more damage for you. And fuel gain is the most important part of the build. Like I was mentioning earlier, you can actually do the entire maliwan takedown with only 1 action skill. The only reason why you can't completely go to Wotan is because you can't fit in the door. Otherwise, it would be able to do the entire maliwan takedown along with Wotan. So here's sort of the Moze aspects here. even though we're not really expected to Moze damage, we're actually doing a ton of damage with just our Dark Army, and it is absolutely shredding. This is going to be coming from Big Surplus, and it's also going to be coming from Fire the Skag's Den, and also Cloud of Lead, and the Stoke the Embers and the Green Tree. That's all of our fire damage passing over into our Dark Army here. It is Exceptional plus plus, so this is perfect damage. It's going to be carrying you through quite a lot. I'm going to meet you guys over at Trant because I think it's time to do our ending off Trant. I'm going to be running over him a couple times just to show you what the build can do against the boss, and expect whatever happens to Trant to happen in all takedowns, all pieces of content, because it has been tested fully. So I'll meet you guys over at Trant. Alright, and we over at Trant now. Welcome on back, guys. I remembered earlier we were talking about armored infantry with 4 points that you may not need it if you don't want to, and toward cross promotion with also 1 point. I can diversify 5 more points to wherever you would like to. A few suggestions that I would give is probably Limit Break. Limit Break is whenever you cause a status effect to an enemy. Whenever she or Iron Bear inflicts one, you get stacking action steal cooldown rate. So if you're ever worried about leaving Iron Bear and you want to get back to it quickly, Limit Break completely trumps Grizzled, and it also completely annihilates Explosive Punctuation, so you don't have to worry about either of those. Some other ones that I would probably consider are Match Set, because Match Set will give you decreased heat per shot, which also carries over to Minigun. So if you want to fire a little bit faster and a little bit more without getting too much heat, you can throw it into Match Set and it'll help you out. Alright, let's go ahead and rock out some Trant. We're basically just going to be using the Dark Army here just to try to do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible. I'm gonna wait for that to pass over, and we'll just shred Trant. From here, it's just hold down the triggers. And Trant gets annihilated. Nice, easy, and fast. Alright, let's do one more, except this time we're going to be using the Unforgiven instead, so that the crit can pass over, and you guys can see what happens when we hold the Unforgiven instead. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, this build has been tested on all takedowns, and it has been tested in all slaughter shafts. So, this will do absolutely every piece of content for you. And feel free to take it for your own. Build will be in Discord. And here's our Unforgiven kill on Trant. Yeah, once you get down to the crits with it, it will absolutely annihilate Trant once that passes over. So that's going to be Minigun Moze, I think, guys. If you have any questions or anything about Minigun Moze, make sure to let me know. If anybody knows anything about resistance versus reduction a little bit more in depth, I would love to hear it. But from there, I think that's going to be calling the build and the video. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it a ton. My name is Bflattened. I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.